Hi there, my name is Jackson Phillips Connor, and today I'm going to be talking to you about DNA and the genetic disorder Down syndrome. Now, some of you may be wondering what DNA actually is. Well, DNA is the basis for all life, and is the molecule that makes up all living organisms. It codes for a protein which is used to make muscle and repair damage. DNA is stored in the nucleus and rests on these large structures called chromosomes. It is the shape of a double helix, which will help it improve the speed of replication, which I'm going to go into next. Now, DNA replication takes place during interphase in the S phase, inside the nucleus. DNA is easily copied because of its double helix structure, where the enzyme helicase, otherwise known as the unzipper, will come in the center and literally unwind at the speed of the jet engine the whole DNA, so you have two different strands coming off. Then polymerase will come in and start making two new strands of DNA, building it from the excess strand of the first one. Now chromosomes. DNA rests on genes, and genes rest on these large structures called chromosomes, which I told you in the first paragraph. Now, think of chromosomes being giant books, while genes were just the paragraphs that hold inside the book, and DNA were the actual words inside the paragraph, the actual letters, A, T, C, and G, that code for all the amino acids which eventually will make the proteins. Now, a protein is used for making different types of body parts, hair, eye color, just every type of different traits. And the monomer of a protein is an amino acid. The DNA code is split into groups of three, which are called codons, and codons are basically one amino acid. 3 letters equals one codon, equals one amino acid. Now, some of you may be wondering what these letters are. Well, one of the codes could be AUG, which is the starting letter in mRNA for all different types of amino acids. Now, Down syndrome. Now let's get into Down syndrome. Down syndrome is a set of mental and physical symptoms that result in having an extra copy of chromosome 21. Even though some people with Down syndrome may have some physical and mental features in common, symptoms of Down syndrome can range from mild to severe. Usually, mental development and physical development are slower in people with Down syndrome than those without it. The mistake triggers Down syndrome is that there is actually an extra copy of chromosome 21, which would also be known as an insertion mutation. The person who is affected usually has an IQ of about 50, while the average person has an IQ of about 100. There's a huge difference between it, so it makes the people with Down syndrome be able to think at a slower process compared to other people. Now, also, people born with Down syndrome usually have heart problems or other medical conditions that normal people wouldn't really have. One way to tell if your son or child has Down syndrome is they will have unusually round heads or almond-shaped eyes. Yes, I know some of those characteristics will be found in normal people, but they're mostly found for people with Down syndrome. Down syndrome can be passed down through the mother and the father's gametes. But the only terrible thing about this is that the disorder cannot be cured, and most of the time the carriers for this disease have to just deal with it. Now, Down syndrome is basically where the person thinks of the slower process compared to other people. Say if you're 40 and you're acting like a 10-year-old, you could have Down syndrome. Now, thank you for listening to my presentation on DNA and Down syndrome. This was a Jackson Connor production. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for listening.